It's official. Elizabeth Warren has announced her president, that she's going to be a candidate for the president, which I'm sure many of you have heard by now because it's a big story. We all knew she was going to run. But I love this because apparently at one of her rallies, she said Trump might not even be a free person. And I kind of just facepalm at how psychotic the rhetoric in the political sphere is getting. First of all, when Donald Trump was campaigning in 2016, saying things like Hillary should be jailed, I rolled my eyes at that. Okay, I understand if you're a Trump supporter or whatever, but I rolled my eyes at that. Okay, look, first of all, I'm not going to allege crimes committed by the Clintons or anything like that. I will say it's really funny how a lot of things don't get investigated and don't actually get referred for indictment or things like that. Like destroying emails. It really was kind of screwed up when public officials use private servers and then use BleachBit to purge them. But again, the rhetoric around arresting people, it's like, okay, calm down. Are we really doing this? But it's fine. But now Elizabeth Warren is doing the same thing. And so my issue isn't so much whether or not I want to have an argument if Clinton or Trump or whoever should go to jail. The issue I have is the utter hypocrisy of going, oh my God, Trump's threatening to jail his political opponents. Okay, Elizabeth Warren is basically saying the same exact things, okay? Oh, but you can frame it a different way. No, look, I don't care. What the main thing that really bothers me when it comes to politics is hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy, okay? And what bothers me a lot is how the media, it's liberal. It is. We have the research, we have the data. And, I'm not a tribalist. I don't care what your political leanings are. I care if you're going to be honest about your intentions and you have real reasons to back the ideas you're putting forward. And we should read the story because I'm going to keep ranting. You guys know how I get. From the Daily Wire, Elizabeth Warren has her lock him up moment. Her small crowd loves it. On Saturday, embattled Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren officially launched her presidential campaign and within 24 hours rolled out her version of Lock Her Up. The small crowd at the event gave the senator a big cheer for her attempt at Trumpian rhetoric. Elizabeth Warren can't win. She can't. She doesn't have the strength behind her. I think Tulsi Gabbard does. Okay, but I don't know if Tulsi could win because she's got the establishment against her. But there are I think Kamala Harris has power behind her. And what I mean by that is there is a strength, there is a collected, charismatic way of speaking. Hillary did not have it. Clinton, she did not have it. Warren does not have it. Okay, but Kamala Harris and Gabbard, I believe, do. I believe Kamala has it in spades. I'm not a big fan of Harris nor most of the people who are actually going to run for the Democratic ticket. Nor am I a fan of the conservatives. But sure, the point I'm saying is she does not have power in her character, and I think people aren't going to vote for that. Look, when it comes to electing a leader, people want strength. They want to know that you're going to do what you need to do, that you can win these negotiations, that you can have peace talks, you're going to do great things, and you're going to be commanding. I don't think Elizabeth Warren has it, but let's read on. She said, every day there is a racist tweet, a hateful tweet, something really dark and ugly, Warren said at a rather intimate campaign event in Cedar Rapids, Iowa Sunday. And what are we as candidates, as activists, as the press going to do about that? Are we going to chase after those every day? Are we going to let them use those to divide us? Then the senator, who was hit with more revelations about her past claims being an American Indian last week, got to her less concise iteration of Trump's famous Lock Her Up chant that became a regular feature of his 2016 rallies, but this time directed back at the president. Here's what bothers me. By the time we get to 2020, Donald Trump may not even be president, she said. In fact, he may not be a free person. First of all, I believe that in this country, it is very easy for people with lots of money to get away with doing bad things. This is one of the reasons why I'm on the left. I don't want to say the left. I want to say I'm socially liberal, and I believe we need reform. We need to reform the justice system. We have a lot of issues. If you have money and you can afford powerful attorneys, look, how many times do wealthy and powerful people commit crimes and they get fined for it? How many times do people run massive corporations that commit some kind of trade violation, some FTC violation, and they say, oh, you made $4 million illegally, we're going to fine you $500,000. Yes, it happens all the time. Without naming any specific products, I've seen this. I've interacted with some of these people. How many times do we hear about specific individuals who stole money? You know what? I don't want to get into all that because it starts getting complicated. But there are certain individuals who ran Ponzi schemes, stealing millions, and they get like 4 years in minimum security, and then you get a dude who like stole a loaf of bread and he gets like an aggravated felony. But sure, you're going to think that billionaire Donald Trump is not going to be a free person. I really, really doubt that. That's, to me, it's ridiculous on several levels. First of all, should Trump be arrested and charged with crimes? There's no evidence. There's literally nothing. The first thing they would do, if they had any evidence, it would have come out. It's been years. We're entering the 2020 campaign and they don't have anything. Okay, I'm so sick of this rhetoric of like, Trump has done something wrong. It's like, yeah, sure, tons of politicians have done things wrong. Roger Stone gets arrested for lying to Congress. Oh, yeah, you want to talk about lying to Congress? What about all the other people who have lied to Congress? Anyway, I digress. It's ridiculous. Those gathered at the Cedar Rapids event loved it, responding in loud cheers and applause. She went on to say that Trump is not the only problem we've got, describing him as the symptom of a badly broken system. I actually wouldn't disagree with that. And this is not to say that Trump as a symptom of a broken system is a dig at Trump specifically. But I think it's fair to point out that Bernie and Trump are symptoms of a broken system. The rise of populism shows that whatever was going on, the economic collapse, for instance, Occupy Wall Street, the Tea Party movement. Yes, there are problems. And you're going to get Trump. You're going to get Bernie. Video and photos from the Cedar Rapids event show a room that's only partly filled with an audience that is almost entirely middle-aged. The crowd is also predominantly white. A demographic detail mainstream outlets have curiously not bothered to point out, despite having done so repeatedly concerning Trump campaign events. Another fascinating point. And it's the hypocrisy that truly bothers me with a lot of what goes on. I've been to so many different Trump rallies covering them throughout the 2016 campaign, and I met so many regular people who are just confused by the rhetoric, the accusations, and Elizabeth Warren is predominantly supported by white progressives. Is any of this really surprising? The media machine, like the liberal media, and I'm not saying all media organizations, all mainstream media, no, but there are specific organizations that lean left. They like to pump out these stories, they like to make accusations, and they ignore it when it's themselves. The reason why I want to talk about the story is because when I first saw it, I started chuckling. It's like, it gives me a laugh, You've got all these white people supporting Elizabeth Warren, these white middle class to upper middle class progressives who are clapping and cheering for basically the same rhetoric that Trump had, and Elizabeth Warren playing the populist. I'm like, has anyone ever taken a step back and looked at what they're doing? No, I don't think so. And that's one of the reasons why I hate tribes, I hate tribalism, and I don't want to support anybody, because I see so much of the same thing on both sides. I really do. In her announcement speech Saturday, Warren established the theme of her campaign: America is rigged against the middle class, lower class minorities, everybody but the 1%. Says the 1%, Elizabeth Warren. But that, I don't, okay, sure, fine. You can be wealthy and criticize the wealthy. That's fine. Over the years, America's middle class has been deliberately hollowed out, and families of color have been systematically discriminated against and denied their chance to build some security, she said. Now, it started very quietly. The richest and most powerful people in America, they were rich. I mean, really rich, but they wanted to be even richer, and they didn't care who got hurt. So every year, bit by bit, they lobbied Washington and paid off politicians to tilt the system just a little bit more in their direction. And year by year, bit by bit, more of the wealth and opportunity went to the people at the very top. And that is how today, in the richest country in the history of the world, tens of millions of people are struggling to get by. The middle class squeeze is real, and millions of families can barely breathe. She added later, bravo. Bravo, Elizabeth Warren. Really sounds like you're channeling your inner Donald Trump. Because it blows my mind when, at the State of the Union address, Trump pointed out the women in Congress and said, congratulations, more women in Congress, more women in the workforce than ever. And they're all clapping and high-fiving each other. And it made me, what's funny about it is, if any of these people actually bothered to go to a Trump rally, they'd probably hear those exact same things. And this is why I'm a fairly, I'm independent. I don't want to say neutral, right? Politically independent. I lean more towards Democrats, but for the most part, I'm kind of like, I don't like most of these people. Yes, I've heard Trump say basically the exact same things, that the working class is being ripped apart by these wealthy, corporations and elites. He said on the debate stage, he used to be one of these guys paying off, giving donations to politicians in exchange for favors. So he knows exactly how it works. Do they not realize this is why he won? So what do we have right now? Trump goes up on stage and says, Hillary, you're going to be arrested. And then he doesn't actually do anything. And then everyone starts screaming, oh, Trump's threatening to arrest his political rivals. We're falling into a dictatorship. And now you have Elizabeth Warren saying, oh, but he could be in prison. He might not be a free man. A little bit different, but kind of a similar phrasing. And then she talks about the same thing. It's about the middle class. Of course it is. They're trying to get votes. But it's hilarious how, You've got a room full of white people cheering on a person talking about their political opponent being imprisoned and how the middle class is being hollowed out by the wealthy. And I'm like, you know, if you told me that, if you said this, you could frame that exact same way. Sounds like a Trump rally. They don't seem to realize that they need a mirror. That's what they need. They need a mirror. She also focused on the impact of minorities, suggesting that the 30% lower home ownership rates among African Americans is a result of discriminatory lending practices. Today, the home ownership gap between black and white families is 30 percentage points bigger than it was back in 1960 when housing discrimination was actually legal. Race matters, and we need to say so. No, class matters. And I do believe that we have historical racism, institutional racism, and the housing market is a really, really good example of that. And yes, to an extent, there still are discriminatory practices, but it's a market force. This is why I am not a laissez-faire capitalist. Okay, I know progressive activists. This is real stuff. This is a true story. A non-white progressive activist told me that if a black family moved nearby their property, they would sell immediately because they're scared of property values going down. I was offended by that. Deeply offended. I'm from a mixed area of Chicago where we had, Latino, we had immigrants, we had black families. That is to me disgusting. But it's not a discriminatory practice in the institution or in the government. It's institutional in the sense that the market itself, that even progressive activists feel this way. Not all of them. I'm not trying to say like all people on the left feel this way, but I actually communicated. I have a friend who told me this, and it blew my mind. So you want to talk about discrimination and how race matters, start with yourselves. But ultimately, there's not much you can do because people have a right to choose where and who they associate with. So it really is a big challenge. It really is. I don't know how you solve these problems. I'm not a housing market specialist or economist. But what I will say is too much of their rhetoric is focused on race and not class. I assure you, in the neighborhood I grew up in, white people were being beaten by the cops and falsely, arrested just as much as the other people, the Latinos and the black people in my neighborhood too. Okay, I had cops kick my door in with guns, hands on their holster, yelling at us, screaming at us without a warrant, violation of our rights. I've experienced that. Okay, so let's talk about class. Let's not only pretend that, there's not poor white people. There's poor people in general, and we should help all poor people. And I think if your issue is that there's a 30% gap between white and black. Okay, I understand race matters, but if you focus on class, you will be predominantly helping that race, won't you? And you'll also be helping other poor people, so let's do it that way. But anyway, ultimate point, I'm going to sign off on for now. I don't want to go on too long in these videos. Basically, class is important, and Elizabeth Warren is basically pulling a page out of Trump's book. Is the media going to shriek that she's insinuating she would jail her political rivals? Of course not. Are they going to say anything about the predominantly white crowd? Oh, of course not. Because it's hypocrisy, plain and simple. Anyway, stick around. I'll have another video up at 1 p.m., 4 p.m. on the main channel, and then 6 p.m. I'll see you then.